She needed money and made a deal with a millionaire for one night, but she never expected what would happen next. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching this story from? I really want to know how far this message is reaching. And if you love love stories full of emotion, twists, and heartwarming endings, subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep bringing stories that touch the soul. She needed money. It wasn't a choice, it was an emergency. With every unanswered call from the hospital, the heart of 25-year-old Alison Ramirez tightened. Her mother, hospitalized with heart complications, depended on expensive treatment that insurance didn't cover. Alison, of Latin heritage, light, brown skin, dark brown eyes, and straight dark brown hair, always pulled back in a hurried bun, divided her time between two jobs: a waitress at a diner in Austin during the day and a cleaner in a luxury hotel at night. That evening, rain poured down hard, soaking her worn sneakers as she rushed to her last shift. The golden lights of the Whitmore Grand Hotel, where millionaires and politicians stayed, reflected in the puddles in the parking lot. When she entered, she took a deep breath, adjusted her uniform, and went up to the penthouse. An unusual request, but paid double. As soon as the door opened, Alison came face to face with the man who would change the course of her life. Benjamin Ben Whitmore III, 34 years old, fair-skinned, tall, dark blonde hair, neatly trimmed beard, and blue-gray eyes. A face she'd seen on magazine covers, heir to a resort empire, involved in scandals of infidelity and fortune. He was sitting in silence, staring out at the city view as if he were in another world. The room, impeccably decorated with modern furniture and minimalist artwork, exuded power and loneliness. "You're the cleaner?" he asked, without even turning around. "Yes, I came to clean the penthouse, sir," she replied firmly, trying to hide her nervousness. "Wait," he said, finally turning to look her in the eyes. "How much would you make tonight?" She frowned, confused. "For cleaning, $60. And what if I offered $10,000 to spend the night here? With me? No questions, no physical obligations, just your presence." She froze. Her blood seemed to drain from her face. "Is this a joke?" "No," he replied, serious. "You can leave now and keep cleaning bathrooms for pennies, or accept, but you have to decide now." Her heart pounded like a drum. $10,000. It was nearly the cost of her mother's initial surgery. She thought of everything. She'd already swallowed for a minimum wage. She swallowed her pride, as she had so many times before, and said, "Okay, I accept." The night was strange, silent. He poured wine. She refused it. They talked little. Ben was visibly disturbed, as if something was eating him from the inside. At one point, he whispered, "Do you believe some people are born destined to be lonely?" Alison looked at him. "No, I think some people just learn to protect themselves too much." Ben looked away, touched but didn't respond. They slept on opposite sides of the huge sofa. No touch, no insinuation. The next morning when Alison woke up, she found a thick envelope on the table with the promised amount and a note. "Thank you for listening to me. For the first time in years, I slept in peace. B." She took the money with trembling hands. Tears quietly fell. As she left, the hotel manager called her. "Miss Ramirez, Mr. Whitmore requested that you no longer clean the common floors. Starting today, you will take care exclusively of the penthouse. Triple salary." She barely managed to respond. She just nodded, still not understanding what had happened. But what Alison didn't know was that that night would place her at the center of a scandal that would threaten not only her reputation, but also her safety and her mother's. Ana Sofia Cruz arrived at the hotel just before sunset, her hair tied in a long, wind-tossed braid from the dry Dallas wind. She was 23, with golden brown skin, intense brown eyes, and an expression of someone who learned early to swallow pain in silence. She carried her ironed uniform carefully and an old cell phone with dozens of unread messages from the hospital. Her grandmother, Donna Lucia, had been hospitalized for 2 days, awaiting heart surgery that cost far more than Ana had ever dreamed of having. As she walked down the carpeted corridors of the luxurious Bennett Grand Resort, her heart felt like it was weighed down by lead. That afternoon, everything would change, and it wasn't an easy thought to bear. Hours earlier, she had been discreetly called into the management office. The manager, nervous, closed the door before speaking. "Mr. Alexander Bennett wants to see you now." Alexander. Alex Bennett was 35 years old, tall, athletic, with sharp features, slightly wavy brown hair, and eyes as cold as steel blue, owner of an inherited empire known as much for his fortune as for the rumors of scandals silenced with money. Sitting in his black leather chair, he looked like a living sculpture, rigid, impenetrable. "Do you love your grandmother?" he asked bluntly. Ana hesitated, startled. "More than anything in this world." "Then I'll be direct. I can pay for her surgery, $25,000, all cleared by tomorrow." She stared at him, not understanding right away. "Why? What do you want in return?" Alex stood, walked around the desk and stopped just a few steps from her. His tone was neutral, but there was something dark in his voice. "One night with me. Tonight. Just once. No cameras, no contract. No one will ever know. And tomorrow the money will be at the hospital." For a moment, the world seemed to spin. Ana felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. This is wrong," her voice faltered. "You're free to say no," he replied, staring at her. "But think carefully. How much time does your grandmother have before her heart fails completely?" The words cut deep like a blade. Hours later, Ana was sitting on the edge of the enormous white linen bed in the presidential suite. Her trembling fingers clutched the fabric of the simple dress she wore. Tears rolled silently down her face. She had said yes, not for herself, but for love. Alex entered the room without a word. He stopped when he saw her crying. For a second, the coldness in his eyes faltered. "Are you afraid?" he asked, his voice softer. She nodded, wiping her face with the back of her hand. "I'm ashamed. I don't want you to do anything." "You don't want to," he said, sitting far from her. "I'm not a monster. Maybe I'm just too broken to know what's right." Ana looked at him, surprised by the confession. "Then why this? Why me?" she whispered. "Because you're real, and I don't know who to trust anymore, and because seeing you every day, walking past me like I was invisible, made me want to be truly seen by someone who hadn't sold themselves for fame." Silence filled the room. Neither moved, until Alex lay down, on his back, facing the wall. "You can sleep here. That's all," he said, voice barely audible. Ana lay on the other side of the bed, her back turned to him, her heart still heavy. The crying returned silently, but there was something different about that pain. A confusing feeling, a void filled with something unexpected, vulnerability, pity, or a strange kind of empathy. The next morning, she woke to the sound of the door closing. Alex was gone. On the table was a folder with the hospital transfer receipts and an envelope with $25,000 in cash. On top, a handwritten note. "You saved a life yesterday. Maybe you started saving another one too." Ana held the paper to her chest, and for the first time in many days, cried with a feeling that wasn't just pain. It was confusion. It was relief. But also, it was fear. She didn't know that that quiet night would be just the beginning of a much bigger war, filled with lies, secrets, and a past Alex had never revealed. And that now also put Ana's life at risk. That night, the silence between them wasn't awkward. It was heavy with something deeper, as if words were unnecessary and their eyes said everything. Ana was still awake, staring at the ceiling, in the dark room, feeling the warmth of Alex's body nearby, even though he didn't touch her. "You're still awake." His voice cut through the darkness. She slowly turned her face. Her brown eyes met his blue ones, shining softly in the dim light. "I am. So are you." Alex was quiet for a moment, as if wrestling with his thoughts. Then he said, "You remind me of someone, not by what you do or say, but by the way you look, like you see right through me." Ana bit her lip, surprised by the vulnerability in his words. "Someone important?" "My wife. She died 5 years ago." He took a deep breath. "Cancer, and I haven't been able to breathe the same way since." She didn't answer. She simply reached out gently and touched his fingers over the sheet. It was a small gesture, but it disarmed him. Alex interlaced his fingers with hers, as if that simple contact broke a barrier that money and power had never been able to reach. For hours, they talked about things they had never told anyone. Alex spoke of his lonely childhood, the pressure of being the heir to a family that only cared about numbers and reputation. Ana told him about the nights she spent sleeping in hospitals with her grandmother, the birthdays she worked double shifts to pay for college, the dreams she always pushed aside. "You have a beautiful soul, Ana," he said softly, "and I'm not even sure I have one anymore." She looked at him tenderly. "Maybe you just forgot where you put it." Time there felt suspended. There were no passionate kisses, no empty promises, but there was something even deeper: presence, truth, and the strange feeling that for a few hours, two completely different worlds had touched where nothing else existed. They fell asleep close together, hands intertwined, breathing the same air. And for the first time since his wife's death, Alex slept without medication, without nightmares. He just slept. The next morning, Ana woke up alone. The sheet beside her was already cold. The folder with the money was still on the table, but the note was gone. No message, no words. She got dressed in silence. Every movement felt heavier than the last. She thought about knocking on the door next to hers, but something inside told her not to beg, not now. As she passed the front desk, the manager called her. "Mr. Bennett requested that your presence is no longer needed at the hotel. You're dismissed as of today." Ana stopped, frozen. "Dismissed? What do you mean? But why?" "I wasn't given an explanation, just that it had to be immediate." The words hit her like a bucket of ice water, with every step toward the exit. Ana felt her heart breaking a little more. The night before had been real, hadn't it? All of it, the conversations, the looks. It couldn't have been just the whim of a bored rich man, or could it? As she got on the crowded bus back to the hospital, she couldn't hold back her tears. The shame she'd felt before was now crushed by something even worse. The feeling of being used, of having believed in a connection that maybe never existed. But on the other side of the city, Alex sat alone in the office on the top floor of the main tower. In front of him, his phone screen showed dozens of unsent messages to Ana. He ran, his fingers through his hair, frustrated, guilty, with red eyes from an insomnia that had come back fiercer than ever. He had pushed her away because he was afraid of getting attached, afraid of letting himself feel, but what he didn't yet know was that this fear would come at a cost, and that Ana wasn't like the others. She wouldn't disappear in silence. Ana spent the following days trying to make sense of what had happened. Life didn't stop. Her grandmother's surgery, thanks to the money she still could hardly believe she had accepted, was a success. But the emptiness inside her didn't heal so easily. She slept poorly, staring at the ceiling of the small room she shared with her grandmother in the Latino neighborhood on the outskirts of Dallas. She spent her days handing out resumes to smaller hotels, cafes, and markets. They all said the same thing: "We're full," or worse, "You worked at the Bennett Grand. Why did you leave?" She always replied with a forced smile: "Internal restructuring." But inside, the wound kept bleeding. On the other side of the city, in a penthouse of glass and concrete, Alex looked at the photos his security team kept sending him, even though he hadn't asked directly. There was Ana, walking in an old hoodie, caring for her grandmother in the hospital garden, handing out resumes, trying to start over. He held his phone, zooming in on each image as if he could touch her. The emptiness that had haunted him since his wife's death now had a name, a face, and a voice: Ana, and that terrified him. "She sees you, Alex," said his childhood friend and advisor Owen as he entered the office. "And that scares you." "You don't understand," he replied, his gaze distant. "I can't drag her into my world. People get hurt around me." "Maybe she's the only one who could survive it with you." Alex didn't respond. He just turned to the window, where the city lights blinked indifferently. He had fired Ana not out of contempt, but out of self-protection. He cut the bond before it grew roots. But it was already too late. That same night, Ana was serving coffee in a neighborhood diner where she had finally managed to get a job as a waitress. The uniform was tight, the environment noisy, the customers rude. But she smiled. She forced herself to smile. As she stepped out the back door to breathe, she felt a chill. She looked out at the empty street. For a moment, she was sure she had seen a dark car parked across the road. But when she blinked, it was gone. "I'm getting paranoid," she murmured, rubbing her arms. That night, lying on the small couch, in the living room while her grandmother slept beside her, Ana saw Alex's name pop up on her phone. Her heart skipped a beat, but it wasn't a call. It was a notification. He had liked an old photo of hers on social media. The photo was from months ago, taken at the hospital with her grandmother. Simple, real. With a tired smile, she stared at the screen for long minutes, waiting for something more. A message, an apology, anything. Nothing came. With teary eyes, she whispered to herself, "You looked at me like no one ever did, and then erased me like I was nothing." In the darkness of his penthouse, Alex was also staring at his phone, his thumb hovering over the send button. The message was written: "I shouldn't have let you go. I'm sorry." But he couldn't bring himself to hit send. And in that silence, two hearts beat far apart, wanting the same thing, but suffocated by everything left unsaid. 2 days later, Ana woke up to her phone vibrating non-stop. First, it was messages from unknown numbers, then consecutive calls. When she opened the news app, her world collapsed. Another one, maid involved in scandal with Alex Bennett, leaks intimate details for money. This time's pick, young Latina agrees to secret deal with Millionaire. And now wants fame? Ana felt her stomach turn. Her name was there. Her face, splashed next to old, distorted photos, had been pulled from her social media. Excerpts from her grandmother's medical records were twisted and used as proof that she had used the illness to get close to Alex. Her hands shook. The phone slipped from her fingers and fell to the floor. "Grandma," she called out, her voice breaking. Donna Lucia, with her silver hair tied in a simple bun, slowly entered the room. She wore a floral robe, and her eyes were teary. She held the old tablet Ana had given her months before. "Is all this true, my daughter?" she asked softly, sitting on the couch. Ana dropped to her knees on the rug. "No, Grandma, it's not like that. I just wanted to save you." Lucia looked at her granddaughter with pain. Not anger, not judgment, but the kind of pain that comes from seeing someone you love humiliated in public. I know your heart is good, Ana, but the world doesn't always care about that. Later that day, on her way to work, Ana heard whispers on the sidewalks. Suppressed laughter. She had to quit the diner when a group of customers mocked her out loud. "Hey, look, it's the famous one. Wonder if she'll take 25 grand. To mop the floor now," a man said, sparking laughter. Ana ran out the back, tears burning her face. She ran to a nearby park, curled up on an empty bench, and covered her face with her hands. She wanted to disappear. But then, something inside her, something that still hadn't given up, made her stand up. Her phone was still in her hands. Social media was exploding, most of the comments offensive, cruel, inhumane. She took a deep breath, opened the camera, and hit live. Her face was swollen, eyes red. Her voice cracked in the first few seconds, but then it came steady. "I'm Ana Sofia Cruz. I don't have lawyers. I don't have publicists. I don't have anyone to clear my name." She paused, breathing heavily. "But I have my truth. I accepted a deal, not for fame, not for ambition, but to save the one person who's ever given me love in this life, my grandmother." The chat blew up, some mocking, others shocked, but Ana kept going. "If you think I'm weak for that, fine, but look around. How many women like me are forced to make impossible choices every day? How many are invisible? How many have to swallow pain just to survive?" The tears came back, but she didn't stop. "I'm not asking for respect for me. I'm asking for all the ones carrying heavy bags, cleaning your hotel rooms, taking care of the kids you don't have time for all the ones you ignore until they become gossip." Before ending the live stream, she looked straight into the camera. "And for anyone who thinks they know me from a cheap headline, look at me closely. I'm not ashamed anymore. I survived, and no scandal will ever erase that." She ended the stream. For a moment, everything was silent, but on the other side of the city, in a dark, quiet room, Alex was watching, his face serious, eyes filled with tears. He clenched his fists tightly, as if only now understanding the weight of what he had done. "I should have protected you," he whispered. But now, maybe it was too late. The impact of Ana's live stream grew beyond anyone's expectations. The video went viral in less than 24 hours. On news channels, morning shows, and across social media, her name stopped being a synonym for scandal and started to awaken something rare, empathy. But what came next was even more unexpected. Ana's legal team, made up of a small labor rights NGO moved by her story, filed a lawsuit against the Bennett Grand Resort for moral harassment and wrongful termination. Alex Bennett's name was included as a key witness. He couldn't run. On the morning of the trial, the Dallas courthouse was packed. Cameras from national news outlets filled the lobby. On the front wooden bench, Ana sat with tense shoulders, wearing an old blazer and a modest dress she had borrowed. Beside her, Donna Lucia held her hand tightly. Alex entered from the side, surrounded by lawyers and flashing cameras. He wore a flawless dark suit, but his face was pale, his eyes marked by sleepless nights. For hours, the judge heard witnesses, reviewed documents, and listened to both sides. Then came the most anticipated moment. Alex Bennett was called to the stand. He walked to the podium. The courtroom fell silent. Every gaze on him was sharp. Jurors, journalists, the entire country was watching live. The judge asked the question that hung in the air. "Mr. Bennett, what was your true motivation for dismissing Miss Ana Sofia Cruz?" Alex swallowed hard. He looked at Ana, who kept her eyes fixed on him, unwavering. He took a deep breath, as if each word had to be pulled from his chest with force. It was fear. A quiet murmur spread. Alex continued. "Fear of feeling, fear of letting myself live again, because the truth, Your Honor, is that I loved her from that night on." The silence was absolute. Ana froze. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely hear anything else. She wasn't just a maid. She listened to me, she saw me, and I was a coward. When I saw that I might lose control over the life I had built behind walls, I chose to send her away. I chose to hide. He then lowered his eyes, his voice deeper, trembling. My wife died 5 years ago, and it wasn't just cancer like I made it seem. She died in a car accident after a terrible argument we had. I hurt her with words. She left the house that night and never came back. The cameras captured the emotion on his face. He went on. Since then, I've hidden behind money, power, control. But Ana showed me that there was still life. Inside, he placed his hand over his heart. She didn't destroy anything. I destroyed everything with my silence. A collective breath filled the room. Some people cried quietly. The judge called for order. Alex concluded, I'm not here to save my image. I'm here to tell the truth, because if anyone deserves justice, it's her. In the front row, Ana trembled. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. Donna Lucia simply squeezed her granddaughter's hand and whispered, he finally saw you. At the end of the session, the court went into recess. The verdict would come in a few days, but something had already changed. For the first time, Alex was no longer just a powerful name. He was a man stripped of defenses, broken, but real. And Ana, she was now seen, heard, and more than that, respected. But not everyone applauded this redemption. Outside the courtroom, walls, silent forces were already moving to ensure this story didn't end with justice. 3 days after his testimony, Alex Bennett disappeared. No official statement. No goodbye, no explanation. Just a handwritten resignation letter left on his office desk on the top floor of the Bennett Resort's headquarters, along with his car keys, his powered-off phone, and the wedding ring he never used to take off. The world reacted with shock. Tabloids speculated escape, emotional breakdown, voluntary exile. But to Ana, the silence hurt more than any headline. She won the case. The judge recognized the dismissal as wrongful and ordered the hotel to pay significant compensation. The amount was high, enough to change her life. But when the verdict was read, Ana didn't smile. While reporters waited for her reaction, she walked out the back door of the courthouse, eyes down, steps slow. The victory tasted bitter. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because her heart was still tied to something that neither time nor justice could erase. Instead of using the money to travel, buy a house, or disappear off the map, Ana chose something else. She started with a borrowed room in the community center of Oak Cliff, a Latino neighborhood on the outskirts of Dallas. With repurposed furniture, humble volunteers, and a heart full of purpose, she founded Raíces de Esperanza. There, women who had been silenced by fear, judged by appearance, or exploited by social status found a space to speak, to breathe, to start over. There were job training classes, support groups, psychological and legal aid. But more than anything, there was listening. On one of the hardest afternoons, when a young woman trembled as she told how she'd been humiliated after reporting a supervisor, Ana held her hand tightly and said, "You're not alone. They can try to silence us, but they can't erase who we are." The project was growing, but the pain inside her didn't lessen. At night, when the lights went out and silence took over the small apartment she now shared with her grandmother, Ana looked out the window and thought of him, Alex. She dreamed of him often. Sometimes he smiled, sometimes he cried, sometimes he vanished in her arms like dust carried by the wind. One night, Donna Lucia found her sitting on the floor, looking at an old photo a reporter had accidentally left behind. It was Alex at a charity event many years ago, smiling beside his late wife. "You still love him, don't you?" her grandmother asked softly. Ana took a while to respond. "I loved him." In the silence, in the unspoken, in what hung in the air. She wiped a tear from her cheek with the back of her hand. But how do you love someone who chose to disappear when you needed them the most? Lucia sat beside her granddaughter and held her face in her hands. Maybe he only disappeared because he hasn't learned to forgive himself yet. Time passed, and even with no news, Ana kept a small, quiet but stubborn flame alive. Hope. But what she didn't know was that far away, in a secluded village in Colorado, a man with a scruffy beard, wearing simple clothes and living anonymously, was writing letters he never sent, all addressed to her. On the last page, stained by raindrops, it read only, I can't come back now, but if one day you still wait for me, I'll find my way back. Autumn had arrived in Dallas. The neighborhood trees were tinted orange and gold, and a gentle breeze carried dry leaves across the sidewalks. Ana was organizing papers for the new wing of the Raíces de Esperanza project, now housed in a larger space, renovated with donations and collective effort. It was Saturday, and dozens of volunteers were working on painting and cleaning the new facility. She was in the back hallway when she heard a soft broom sound scraping the floor. She followed the noise, distracted, thinking it was a new volunteer. But when she turned the corner, she stopped. The world seemed to spin around her. There, kneeling beside a bucket of water, scrubbing the dirty floor with care, was Alex. But not the Alex in a suit, arrogant and armored with millions. This was a different man. Beard unshaven, hair longer and tousled, wearing worn-out jeans and a simple grey t-shirt. His gaze was softer, almost serene. And when he saw her, he smiled. A modest smile. Humble. Real. Ana, he said softly, as if her name was still sacred in his mouth. She couldn't react for a few seconds. Her heart was racing, but her body stayed still. What are you doing here? He stood up slowly, wiping his hands on a cloth and taking a deep breath. Before answering, I asked to help as a volunteer. I didn't give my name. I just wanted to serve, to start over. She watched him like someone seeing a mirage. There was truth in his eyes, there was pain, but there was light. After everything. You think you can just come back? She asked, trying to hold back the emotion already threatening to overflow. No, he replied, I didn't come back for me, I came back for you. Because the only thing that made me feel human again was loving you. Ana felt her knees weaken. He took a step forward, slowly, respecting her space. I spent months trying to escape the guilt, the weight of my past. I worked in fields, washed dishes in silence, disconnected from everything that had my name, but I never could get you out of my mind. She turned her face, feeling her cheeks burn. You broke me, Alex, when you disappeared. I thought it was easy for you to forget me. It wasn't. He whispered, his voice cracking. It was hell. But I needed to get lost, to deserve to come back. I wanted to be someone you could look at without pain. Someone who, if he stayed whole. She looked at him. Behind the hurt, there was something that had never left. The memory of the night he held her hand without making promises but saying everything. The man standing in front of her was no longer the same. He didn't shine like before, but maybe that's why he now glowed in a different way. And what if I say it still hurts? She asked. I'll understand, he replied firmly, but I'll stay. I'll sweep this floor every day if I have to, just to prove I can be better. Not because of what I have, but because of what I feel. A single tear fell from her eyes, and then, without another word, Ana stepped forward and hugged him. A long, silent hug. It wasn't complete forgiveness yet. It wasn't a romantic new beginning. It was a crack, a starting point, a chance, and for Alex that was enough. But fate, as always, still had its final cards to play. In the days that followed, Alex stayed, quiet, humble, helping however he could at the community center. He painted walls, carried boxes, cleaned whatever was needed. He never asked for anything, never tried to force a reunion. Ana watched him from a distance, at first with suspicion, then with curiosity, and then with a heaviness in her chest she no longer knew how to name. Maybe it was longing. Maybe it was that rare feeling born when pain begins to make space for understanding. On a warm November afternoon, the Texas sky was painted in golden and orange tones, as if time had paused for a moment. The shelter was nearly empty. The voices of women echoed from workshops and support rooms. Ana walked out with a tray of cups to bring to the entrance, where volunteers were finishing the day's cleaning. As she neared the sidewalk, she saw Alex, sitting on the step, alone, watching the sunset. The golden light touched his messy hair, and there was a calmness on his face she had never seen before. A man who no longer needed to hide. She approached slowly. He heard her coming but didn't turn right away. He just spoke softly. "Did you know the sky here smells like childhood? I haven't felt that since I was a kid, like the air's telling you everything's okay, even when it's not." She sat beside him in silence. The warmth of the concrete touched her legs. A light breeze rustled her blouse. "You hurt me, Alex," she said, her voice firm. "I know," he replied, finally looking at her. "And I don't expect you to forget, but I hope you can see me for who I am now, not who I was." Ana looked at him. For a few seconds, she just looked. His eyes were different. There was pain, yes, but there was life, and when she touched his face with the tip of her fingers, she felt it. He wasn't the same man who had left her behind. "You don't have to promise anything," she whispered. "I have nothing left to offer but my truth." Then she smiled, not the sad smile of someone resigned, but the soft smile of someone who finally decides to let go of the weight. And she leaned in, slowly, until their faces met. The kiss happened as if the world had been waiting for that moment. No rush, no pressure, no wounds. A kiss that was light, warm, real, given by choice, by care, by love, for the first time, without pain. When their lips parted, Alex trembled. A tear rolled down his cheek. He didn't say anything. He just pressed his forehead to hers and stayed there. Ana smiled, holding his hand. Night fell in silence. There were no vows. No promises, just two hands intertwined, and the quiet certainty that sometimes love doesn't shout. It stays. The following months weren't marked by grand gestures or headlines. They were made of simple routines, comfortable silences, and small, daily miracles. Alex and Ana moved into a single-story, lightwood house in a modest neighborhood, full of trees and neighbors who still waved from their windows. The front yard was small but full of flowers, with daisies Ana planted on Sundays, whenever she found time between studying and project meetings. The Raíces de Esperanza Center grew with Alex's tireless help. He woke up early, made breakfast, with banana pancakes and scrambled eggs, put on an apron, and headed to the shelter. He mopped floors, organized the pantry shelves, guided teenagers caught between hard choices. Never as someone above them, but as someone who once knew what it meant to be lost and rebuild from scratch. "You've got good hands for building things," one of the volunteers said one morning, watching him fix the door to one of the support rooms. He smiled and replied, "It's because they've broken a lot too. Now they want to fix what they can." Ana, meanwhile, had gone back to school. She enrolled in a night course in community psychology at the district's public college. At night, she came home tired but happy, sharing her scribbled notebooks and slowly reborn dreams with Alex. "I want to understand better the pain of the women who come through here," she once said, lying on the couch with her feet in his lap. "I want to be able to heal with more than just nice words." He kissed her fingers and said, "You already heal just with the way you look." Every Sunday they had lunch with Donna Lucia. The grandmother's house was now full of life. Alex's laughter echoed loudly on the porch, where he sometimes grilled meat on a makeshift barbecue. Ana helped in the kitchen, while Lucia told old stories with that spark in her eyes of someone who still believed in love. "I knew he'd come back different," the elderly woman would say, winking at her granddaughter. "A man who truly loves comes back with humility." And it was true. Alex had become someone else, not the powerful heir, not the man wounded by the past, but someone whole, someone present. At night, while the world slept, Ana would find little notes under her pillow or next to her teacup. Words written by hand, in simple handwriting, but full of feeling. "Today I saw you smile at a lady at the shelter. I've never seen anything so beautiful. If I could keep one moment from the day, it would be when you called me home. I'm still learning how to love the right way. But with you, I know I'm on the right path." Their romance wasn't made of fireworks. It was made of bricks, of strong foundations, of small, daily choices. One night, as they lay down, Ana rested her head on his shoulder and asked, "Do you miss your old life?" He was quiet for a moment, then whispered, "No, my life started here, with you." She smiled, not because she had to, but because finally she could. Outside, the Texas sky faded slowly, and inside that simple house, love grew, without rush, without demands, just real. But fate still had one final test, and this time it wouldn't be just between the two of them. Time passed, but some scars didn't disappear. They just learned to tell new stories. 5 years after that first shy kiss under the golden Texas sky, Ana and Alex stood before a crowd in a restored old warehouse in the heart of Dallas. The exposed brick walls now housed the new headquarters of Raíces de Esperanza, a center 3 times larger than before, with wings for job training, psychological care, and safe spaces for women to start over. Hundreds of people filled the courtyard. Volunteers, former participants of the project, students, entire families. It was a clear spring morning, with colorful banners and tables covered with wildflowers. On stage, Ana wore a simple, elegant navy blue dress, her hair in a low bun, her eyes shining. Alex, beside her, wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, a calm, mature look, with grey streaks already lining his temples. When the microphone was handed to him, Alex took a deep breath. His eyes scanned the crowd for a moment. Then they rested on Ana. "I used to think I could have everything. I was raised to believe that with money, you could buy respect, power, security." He paused. "And for a long time, I even thought you could buy love." The crowd fell silent. But what saved my soul was the only kind of love that never had a price. Ana felt her eyes fill with tears. His hand reached for hers and squeezed it firmly. "She saw me when I was nothing, but a broken man, not because of lack of wealth, but from too much fear. Ana taught me that love isn't about possession. It's about walking side by side, even when the other stumbles, even when the other runs away." Someone in the audience began to clap. Soon the entire courtyard stood. The sound of applause filled the air, but Alex wasn't finished. "This place, this new headquarters, is not a gift we give to women. It's a commitment to listening, to healing, to transformation." He looked again at Ana, moved. Because true love begins when 2 broken people decide to rebuild together. No contracts, no pride, just courage. Ana couldn't hold back the tears. She squeezed his hand even tighter and smiled. A smile full of past, of present, and of everything still to come. As they stepped off the stage amid hugs and greetings, Alex whispered in her ear, "You were the bravest choice I ever made." And Ana replied, her voice thick with emotion, "You were the man who learned to love when you no longer had anything left to prove." That night, as they walked hand in hand under the clear sky, they passed in front of the small shelter where it all began. They stopped there for a moment in silence, and without saying a word, they knew their love hadn't been easy or fast, but it had been real, and it was forever. So, what did you think of this story? Leave your score from 0 to 10 in the comments. I really want to know how much it touched you. If this story moved you, like the video, share it with someone special and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories. And before you go, I've picked out another even deeper, more touching story that's sure to move your heart. Just click and watch now.